All right, let's talk Archimedes. What's the first thing that pops into your head? I'm guessing it's a guy, a bathtub, and a whole lot of splashing, right? But what if I told you that all those famous stories, the ones we all learn in school, completely miss the point of what this guy was all about? Today, we're going to dig past the legends and find the real Archimedes.
Yep, that one word. Eureka! I've got it! It's probably the most famous aha moment in, all of human history. For more than 2,000 years, that single shout has basically been his entire brand. It paints this picture of a genius having a breakthrough about a very real-world, practical problem. But here's the thing. That story, and a couple of others you definitely know, they've created this image of Archimedes that might just be, well, wrong. We all know the legends, sure, but the man behind them? Turns out he was obsessed with something completely different. So the popular version of Archimedes, the one we all know, really stands on three big stories, right? First, there's the whole Golden Crown mystery, playing detective in his bathtub. Then you've got the super bold claim that, hey, give me a lever long enough and a place to stand and I'll move the earth. And, of course, the incredible, frankly terrifying war machines he supposedly built to fend off the Romans. It's a great story, paints him as this master inventor, a hands-on, practical guy. But, and this is the big but, this is where the story takes a twist. When you actually look at the historical reality, it's a totally different picture. The myth gives us this eccentric inventor, a guy who loves his gadgets and his war machines. The real Archimedes? He saw himself as a pure mathematician. He was all about abstract ideas and the pure, simple beauty of geometry. And you don't have to take my word for it. Check out this quote from the historian Plutarch. He wrote that Archimedes thought the whole business of mechanics, the inventions, the stuff that made him a superstar, was, and I quote, ignoble and sordid. Basically, dirty, vulgar work. His real ambition, his passion, was in pure thought, ideas that had nothing to do with the messy needs of everyday life. So think about it like this. For Archimedes, all those legendary inventions were just doodles in the margins. They were, in his words, just diversions of geometry at play. So if he wasn't really an inventor deep down, what kind of mathematician was he? What were the big questions that really kept him up at night? Well, to get that, we need to zoom out and look at the world he was walking into. Archimedes didn't just appear out of nowhere. He was building on centuries of work. You see, geometry had already made this incredible journey from being a practical tool in Egypt for, measuring farmland to becoming this pure abstract science, thanks to guys like Pythagoras. By the time Archimedes shows up, math had its own Mount Everest, these huge unsolved problems that everyone was trying to crack. And these were the big ones, the three great problems of Greek math. Could you square a circle? Could you double the volume of a cube? Could you cut any angle into three perfect thirds? Now here's the catch. You had to do it using only a compass and a straight edge. No measuring, no calculators. These weren't about building something, they were about pure, elegant logic. This was the kind of stuff Archimedes absolutely loved. Okay, so how did they even begin to tackle problems with curves, like circles? Well, the main tool in their toolkit was something called the method of exhaustion. Think of it like trying to figure out the size of a weirdly shaped puddle. You can't measure it directly, so you build a box around it that's definitely bigger, and then you build a smaller box inside it that's definitely smaller. The real size is trapped somewhere in between. So, let's take a circle. Step 1, you draw a shape you can calculate, like a hexagon, right inside it. Now, obviously the hexagon's area is a bit smaller than the circle's, but it's a starting point, right? It's an approximation from the inside. Then, for step 2, you do the exact same thing, but from the outside. You draw another hexagon, this time just big enough to surround the circle. Now you have a too small and a too big. And here's the genius part. You just keep adding more and more sides to both polygons, from a hexagon to an octagon, and so on. You exhaust the space between them, squeezing the true area of the circle until the difference is almost nothing. This was the gold standard for a rock-solid mathematical proof. Okay, but here's the crucial question. This method is amazing for proving something. If you already have the answer, you can use this to show everyone that you're right. But how do you get the answer in the first place? This method doesn't help you discover anything new. It's for checking your work, not for getting the initial flash of insight. So, what was Archimedes' secret? Well, it turns out he had a secret weapon. And get this, it was lost to history for centuries, only rediscovered in 1906. It was called the mechanical method, and it was brilliant. He basically imagined blending physics and math.
He'd mentally slice up a shape, like a sphere, into an infinite number of super thin slivers. Then, in his mind, he'd hang those slivers on a theoretical lever to see how they'd balance out. It was a way to use his physical intuition to feel his way to the right answer.
And we know this is what he did because he told us. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing a bit here, that some things became clear to him first through this mechanical method. But, he said, it wasn't a real proof. So after he used his secret method to find the answer, he would then go back and build the official geometric proof the old-fashioned way. It was like his secret laboratory for ideas.
So, let's bring this all back home. If the whole Golden Crown story wasn't his real eureka moment, if all those inventions were just, fun side gigs, then what was it? What was the discovery that he considered his absolute greatest achievement?
It all came down to one beautifully simple number. That little fraction, 3/2, or 1.5. For Archimedes, this held the secret to his greatest achievement. Not a war machine, not a clever trick with a crown, but a pure, unchanging, beautiful mathematical truth.
So what is it? What he discovered was this absolutely mind-blowing relationship between a sphere and the cylinder that it fits perfectly inside of. He proved that the volume of the cylinder is exactly 1.5 times the volume of the sphere. But then, and this is the amazing part, he found that the cylinder's surface area is also exactly 1.5 times the sphere's surface area. The same perfect ratio for both volume and surface area.
Flipping that around, it means his sphere takes up exactly 2/3 of the space of the cylinder that holds it. It was perfect. A hidden rule of the universe, this beautiful, elegant harmony, just sitting there, waiting to be discovered by pure reason. This was the kind of beauty Archimedes was chasing his whole life.
And how do we know this was the one he cared about most? Because of what he asked for when he died. He didn't want a crown or a lever carved on his grave. He asked his friends to carve one simple image onto his tombstone, a sphere, perfectly enclosed in a cylinder. That was the discovery he wanted to be remembered for forever.
And that just leaves us with this one last thought, doesn't it? The world remembered Archimedes for the flashy stuff, the practical inventions he himself thought were kind of unimportant. Meanwhile, his true passion, the beautiful discovery he literally took to his grave, that was almost lost. It just makes you wonder, right? How many other great ideas or great people do we remember for all the wrong reasons?